talking about webtoons again and the challenges of webtoon creators. We got too many questions asking about when should I start my webtoon and why should I start my webtoon? Oh, I'm too lazy to start my webtoon. No, I will be starting it next month. No, next year. No, after 5 or 10 years. Well, we've been
I've heard
talking
that so
about
many
this
times.
stuff and this annoying questions we always ask to ourselves before we start achieving our goals. Today we got creators Nina Daisy. Hello there,
Hello.
Nina. And creator Talya Cami. Hello there, Talya.
Hello.
Well, first we are going to head with unscripted questions before we head to the scripted ones.
That's fair.
Well, before Spider-Man start slinging with webs and Daredevil start having his awkward senses to save Hell's Kitchen, there's always a source, a type of powers that an accident that happened to him, so he got his power. So how did you get your creator's power, your artistic powers, your writing powers for your projects? This is first you, Nina.
So I guess like with most creators, it started when I was roughly in middle school. And just between us three and whoever might be viewing, I was really into Twilight. Like a lot, like embarrassingly so. and so I would always like look for Twilight fan art online, like go on DeviantArt and look for Bella kissing Jacob, things like that. But then I wasn't satisfied just seeing the fan art. And I wanted to create stuff that fit what I wanted. So I started looking at tutorials, getting like how to draw manga books, because everyone at that age sadly starts with that style. And then I started creating the content that I wanted to create. And then I got more into it, and I never stopped until I got to the point I am now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Talya?
Well, I started drawing when I was about 13, 14 years old, just became totally like obsessed with just anime. I usually watch like shoujo, the girly kind of stuff. I remember I was also reading Twilight at the time. Yeah, it was kind of the big craze back then when I was a kid in middle school. But yeah, I was just really into shoujo, and I was like, this is the most beautiful art I've ever seen. Like, I love Studio Ghibli and all that good stuff, so I just wanted to learn it, and I just did whatever it took to learn how to draw it, and I've just been drawing ever since. So it's been about 15 years, I'm guessing. Yeah.
What a big mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Twilight is going to be our major topic today. Not your comment. Well, so every creator or every superhero or character have his own arsenal or his own weapons. So what weapons do you use to make art?
If you give me a half second, I've got them here. Well, at least with how I create art now, mostly, I've got my trusty tablet, but it's a bit big to like get out of the drawers and stuff. So I'll just show my trusty tablet pen, my artist glove, and my brains, I guess.
What softwares do you use?
Clip Studio Paint, mostly. Like in the past, when I first started, I used Paint Tool Sci for a long time, until there was a big discount on Clip Studio. And for those who are interested in getting into Clip Studio, there are big discounts multiple times a year. So you may as well wait for a moment in which there's a big discount and then get it. And so, yeah, my tools, my Clip Studio, and the biggest ingredient of all definitely has to be a huge love for my characters. Like, I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for that too. Yeah,
that's a huge motivation for every creator to have before he starts his own webcomic. Not being stuck in the middle of the comic. Why I'm drawing these characters? Why do they look like this? I don't have to complete characters like this or stories like this. So you do have started a great point. Nice point. What about
Thank
you,
you.
Tali? You're welcome.
Well, when I was younger, I just like had like a bunch of like those manga ink pens. Like I just had like a whole box of them, and then I was really obsessed with like Copic markers, as you probably know of. They're really popular markers known from artists all around the world. And then just only a couple of years ago did I start to draw digitally. I got I got one of those tablets. The ones that you can see the screen. I just really wanted one, so I've just been drawing ever since. I usually only draw my comics on what is it called? Autodesk Sketchbook right now. But right now I'm trying to learn a bunch of stuff like Photoshop, Illustrator, since I'm going to school studying graphic design. But yeah, I usually use Autodesk Sketchbook because it comes with the Copic book, the Copic marker library, and so it just makes my comics super vibrant, and I just love that. But yeah, also I also love my characters, especially because I'm trying to tell a story, and that's really important to me. So trying to tell a story visually is important to me and my goal. So,
Yeah, that's so important. That's so cool.
mhm.
So,
I feel that deeply.
do you play video games?
I used to play so many video games. I used to play so much. When I was in high school, like whatever game was popular on Steam at the moment, or also like League of Legends, I would play it so much. But a few years ago, I started playing less and less, mainly because I started realizing that the more time I spent on video games, the less time I spent working on my comic.
Yeah.
So like my very first big comic, it was like 94 pages and it took me 2.5 years to complete. If it weren't for League of Legends, I would have been finished a lot earlier.
Oh.
And like with the project that I'm working on now, in the same amount of time with with much less video games involved, it took me half the time to reach the same goal.
I could approve this, but sometimes us artists and creators, we do love to get our minds off our projects. So
I agree, but at the moment, I am head over heels for Overcooked, the PlayStation game where you have to cooperate with someone to cook dishes, and it's a stupid little competitive game, but it's so cute, and I love it so much, and I'm really good at it. So that makes it more fun.
Amazing. Before we head to the same question to Talia, please, our viewers, feel free to post your questions. Tell us about your questions, about what you had ideas for Nina, for Talia, about webtoons, how to start, when to start, some advice. We would like to answer your questions. Today, we are here today to answer all of your questions. So feel free to post your questions or send them to me on PMs. If you are too shy to send them on social media, feel free to send them to me directly. So, do you play video games, Talia?
Not really. I've always been like the anime crazy person, just watching the shows and stuff more than video games. I guess I used to play, and if someone still offers, I'll still play like Mario Kart. That's always like a classic. But yeah, usually it's just I usually like to watch.
What
Like
animes are you watching lately?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Blue Spring Ride was my newest favorite one. Kimi ni Todoke is definitely my number one favorite. Toradora, I've seen a billion times. There's just too many to name. But yeah, I just like all different kinds.
Oh, that's cool. Well, are you a superhero or a villain?
Good question. I'm not sure which.
I guess I kind of want to say superhero because personality-wise, I think I'd be closer to that, though I'm not as masochistic as most superheroes are. But if I had to choose, I would go somewhere in between and say anti-hero.
Mhm.
So
The
something,
Deadpool type.
yeah, like Deadpool, Harley Quinn. Like it depends on the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What
Right.
about you, Talya?
I would prefer to be the superhero, but of course, being the creator of stories, I have to be in the mindset of both. So, I have to think of both so I can portray both sides well.
Oh, I get that so much. I have put my characters through so much trauma and enjoyed it. And that superhero
No,
probably
no.
wouldn't be the best.
But yeah, I guess that's part of making comics, though, right?
Yeah.
You got to put them through all this stuff, so it'd be interesting for the reader.
Yeah.
Break
Even
Even though
break
you're
their
like,
spirits.
no. Yeah, and you're like, no, please, I don't want to.
How did you start your webtoon?
My current one, you mean?
Yeah.
So the one that I'm working on right now started while I was still in comic school. So after high school, I did a 3-year course at a 3-year comic course in an art school. And during the second year, one of the assignments that they gave us was to do a 5 or 6 page long comic on any topic that we wanted, as long as the style wasn't semi-realistic. So we could use, like, I don't know, manga style or the French comic style, like Asterix or Tintin, or the
That's
like
amazing.
the Cartoon Network cartoon style or whatever. And so out of the top of my head, I did a 5-page story of a woman driving at night, accidentally hitting a big bird with her car at night. But the bird was fine, just a little bit injured. And so she brought the bird home to tend to the bird's wounds and then bring it to a vet the next morning. But the bird turned out to be a harpy, so a half bird, a half human woman transformed as a bird. And the next morning, she woke up with a naked bird lady in her bed. But then I fell in love with the characters, and I was like, damn it, these characters are too cute. And so I decided to make a full webtoon focusing on that 5-page story that I made for comic school. And then I just kept it going.
How long have been you creating it again?
Sunrise Blossom, Sunrise Blossom, almost 3 years.
3 years. Oh, that's cool. Well, you just mentioned that at the art school that they didn't want you to draw a sim life style. They wanted you to draw any other style other than sim life. Why is this?
Well, that's because in the first year of comic school, the curriculum focused on anatomy studies, gesture studies, perspective studies. So classic, basic art that covers the basics and the fundamentals that is closer to realism. And so at that point, all of us had been used to drawing small comics in a realistic or semi-realistic style. And so this was a small project to get us out of our comfort zones and get used to drawing something different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
What about you, Talya?
How did I start writing the story?
How you start your webtoon entirely, writing the story, the art, creating the characters, the universe?
The one Somewhere Only We Know is actually based on a true story. So I basically was deciding to either remember the whole story by memory or from stuff I wrote down as a teenager. It's just about the turmoils of being a teenager and all the things that I basically had to deal with. So basically, I didn't have to make up any characters. Pretty much all the characters in the story are real people. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like the slice of life, romance kind of like style. So I thought I'd do something like, because most of my stories, they just go on and on and on without anything going, like no plot or anything. And I just felt like my story would give a little bit like a realistic edge to it. And so far, a lot of people seem to like it. So
That's
Yeah.
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I flipped through your webtoon and I find it nice and cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I've also
Well,
been working on mine for almost 3 years or more than 3 years. So it's like, of course, it gets better over time. It's kind of old in the beginning.
well,
Yeah.
Webtoons creators always have the same problems as their students or having jobs or full-time artists. Well, actually, me as a full-time artist, I didn't find this kind of stress or this kind of difficulties as students and the ones that have jobs and do webtoons do. So there's always conflicts and hard times when you show how you could furnish your job while jobs have maybe 9 hours or 8 hours daily. After that, you have to tend to your families or have some times with your friends or your relatives. After that, you start working on your art. So, what's your workflow?
I work part time, or actually a little
Mm-hmm.
bit less than part time. So half of my time I roughly, so when I'm not sleeping, when I'm not eating, when I'm not doing house chores, half of the time I spend teaching and half the time I spend drawing. And it is difficult, if not nearly impossible, to work on a comic after working for 8 or 9 hours a day and also having a house, maybe even children to take care of. So at that point, it's also a big matter of priorities. Like if your work and taking care of the house is more important to you, then you might have to sacrifice part of your comic. So maybe you'll have to update much less frequently or do much shorter updates. But like if your comic is more important to you, or like if creating comics is what you want to do, then you have to sacrifice work time or house care time and so forth. Um, I'm kind of lucky from that point of view because I currently live with my boyfriend who works full time.
Mm-hmm.
And while like everything, like rent, bills, everything, we split half and half.
Mm-hmm.
I know that if I am going through tough times at work or I'm not making enough to support myself, he is there for me as a safety net, kind of. So I have that privilege that I know not many people have, the kind of safety net when it comes to that. But because comics is what I want to do and what I have been doing for a long time now, but I don't make enough just yet to drop everything else. I have to make compromises, sacrifices. So I can't afford to work full time if I want to reach the goals with comics that I want to reach.
Well, you do. Your artwork looks great, so I
Thank
know you.
you.
You're going to have many fans in the future.
Thank you. And it's been growing well and it's been going great so far. So both the Webtoons, Tapas, Patreon have been growing gradually, but that's the same for everyone. Like everyone grows gradually, bit by
Yeah, we're
bit.
going to be speaking about this matter actually. Everything in Webtoons is slow. So we're going to be speaking about this question about how to grow on Webtoons, how to actually it's slow, but you shouldn't lose hope. So what about you, Talia? What's your workflow?
It just really depends. Like if I'm really in an artist like mood, then I'm gonna only work on that, like at least for a bunch of hours. Like it takes me like so many hours to do one page, but but I'm also going to school and I work part-time. School is all online, so I get to kind of like switch. It kind of just depends on just depends how much work I have with school. When it comes to work, there is a bunch of downtime, like for an hour or so. So I have time to work on my comics or do whatever I'd like. Um, so yeah, watch more anime and like get the feel of it. I kind of like to watch it to like get in the mood to draw if I need help. So like I have time doing that. And then of course like I'm going to graphic design school online. So I'm just like there's just so much, like sometimes it's busier one week and it's like not so busy the other week. So it just really depends on what's going on around me.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just really depends.
How long do you ladies spend on drawing daily? Hours?
Minimum 1 hour, maximum 8. On average, 3 or 4 hours. But that also depends on the day of the week and how I'm feeling. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, and I get nothing done.
Right. I'm not a morning person either, if that's what you mean. Like, I'm just like, nope. Yeah, like it really depends. Like, just again, how busy I am and how I'm doing. But when I'm really in the mood to draw, it'll probably take me like all day. So I don't really like pay attention. It'll probably take me about the same amount, like 8 hours, maybe 4 hours, maybe 10 hours. It just really depends. Yeah. But I try to at least doodle.
It's always the mood. It's always the mood with the artist.
Huh?
Actually, this is a real, a true villain to every artist. The mood. The mood and the art block.
But the
We're
art
going
block,
to be dealing with the art block, actually. Well, as new creators are coming to webtoons and making story and characters and start to post them on webtoons, they're going to have art block. Do you have any way to cheat your way out of art block?
well, I think that art block is something that mostly comes with illustrators rather than comic artists. While comic artists, it is likelier that they may come up with writer's block if they're not sure how to continue with their stories. But if they have the story, if they have the script, even if they have the thumbnails all ready for like the storyboards all ready for an episode, then rather than art block where like you maybe like you don't know what to draw and your mind is completely blank, there might be lack of motivation that pops up very often, especially with rookie creators. So the newer you are at creating comics in particular, the easier it is to lose motivation. And I think that the best way to handle this is to set simple, realistic, and attainable goals and never start with a big project. Like nobody's magnum opus is going to be their very first comic.
Yeah.
And so if you're just starting, it's better to start with shorter stories that are more easily manageable so that you can actually bring it to completion instead of thinking of some, like, I don't know, 100-page or even 100 episode long comic that you're just going to lose motivation for within a couple of months if you're not used to the workflow, as we were talking about earlier. So keep it simple, keep it realistic, and take it one step at a time. Like if you are able to bring that first project to completion, then it'll be much easier to bring a much longer project to completion after that.
No, that's so nice advice you just gave ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, because it happens so many times. It's really frustrating that people start posting on Webtoons, see that they don't blow up overnight, and their following doesn't blow up overnight.
They get blogged, then they stop making and achieving their goals.
Exactly. And it's just frustrating because it happens so often. I have seen it hundreds and hundreds of times at this point. It's like, you know what? I can give you my advice, but it's up to you if you follow it.
Yeah. What about you, Talya?
I just feel like as an artist, no matter what kind of artist you are, artist block is definitely a thing. I'm kind of dealing with it right now. I tried to doodle last night. Nothing would come out right. It just happens sometimes for like no reason at all. Like it just kind of sucks. Like I'm a superhero that has a weakness all of a sudden. It's just like, so, like I feel like it happens like all the time. But at the same time, if I do have artist block, it gives me time to like just doodle and practice and not worry about anything, but also get my work done and like get schoolwork done and all that stuff. But it's definitely something that really like artist block definitely frustrates me, but I know that it's part of being an artist in general to like just not be able to draw sometimes. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. And hopefully I'll be drawing better soon, but practice makes perfect, as they say.
Yeah, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I
Absolutely.
have been talking to Steven Silver, character designer from Disney and Warner Brothers. He said a very amazing topic, a very amazing advice about the art block. Art block, you can just move it away, whatever you want, and stop it from happening to you. Only if you hold your paper and hold your pencil and start scratching anything about on it, even if you don't, if you hate it, you're going to thank yourself in the end, and you're going to love your work in the end. So never stop drawing, never stop working on your project unless you are surrendering to your art blogs and you are going to a dark road.
Something similar, though, to art block that I think, especially with comics, I believe should be addressed is creation burnout. And it happens so often that creators, they work with schedules that are too difficult for them, or that is too different, or big sudden changes for them, that they immediately lose motivation and burn out and start hating their comic because of the big change in their lives. And since it's similar topic to art block,
Yeah, yeah. Setting a real-time schedule and knowing your limits and above your limits and lower your limits is very important. Yeah, that's
yes,
so true.
exactly. However, burnout happens to everyone. Like even the most pro artists sometimes go through burnout. And if you yourself are going through some kind of burnout related to your comic, it's okay to take a small break to recover, as long as it doesn't last more than a month or so, and as long as you don't stop creating in general while you're taking a break from your comic.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you overworked yourself and emotionally you're completely burned out and you do not want anything to do with your comic for a while because you're so emotionally burned out because you went over your limits, then you can, I don't know, work on commissions, work on fan art, do some illustrations that are not related to your comic, just to stay creative and stay productive while recovering from said burnout. And as long as you get back to it within a month or so, then you're good. As long as it doesn't turn into a long-term hiatus where the comic just stops existing, as long as you get back to it within a month or so, it's good.
Well, we got a question from our audience here. How do you keep your workflow with the pressure of working every week and publish them before deadline, before publishing them on Webtoon?
So like how we keep our schedule for the webtoons.
Yeah. Like you are keeping your own deadlines, because when you're working with a client, you're working for a comic company or illustration company, they always keep you on track. Did you finish this page? Are you done? If you're not done, we are going to move you and get another artist. This is what happens when you're working with as a client or a comic company. So how do you manage your deadline?
Well, with webtoons, it is completely different than that. Mostly because you don't have the pressure of an employer pushing you to follow your deadlines. Though with webtoons, all deadlines that you follow are self-imposed. So you set your own limit and you decide how much you can do every week or every 2 weeks, depending on your update schedule, and the quality and the quantity of what you do in that amount of time. But something that, especially for rookie creators, if there are any who are watching who are still new to it, many rookie creators have the same mindset as those working for publishing companies like that, and think, I haven't updated this week. My followers are going to hate me. Everyone is going to unsubscribe. This is horrible. That's not true. Because unless you are a Webtoon original, or unless you have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, if you update a week late, a couple of days late or a couple of days earlier, they're not going to care and they're not going to notice. So don't worry too much about. So unless you are super professional, if you're an original or have thousands and thousands of subscribers, they're not going to notice. Like, they're not going to say, "Oh, it's Friday, this comic is updated," and go and look for that comic. No, they're not, because the average webtoon reader, if they see a comic they like, they press subscribe, and then every day or every couple of days, they open the app, see which of their comics have updated, and read whichever has updated. They're not going to care about the schedule as much as you do. So don't stress too much about it. It's good to keep a schedule for your own productiveness and for your own productivity. And also because it does look more professional to see episodes updating regularly. But readers aren't going to care as much as you do, so relax. Don't worry.
This is a very important advice, actually, you just said. What about you, Talya?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, sometimes I worry about, like, oh God, like if I don't get it out at a certain amount of time, everyone's going to be mad at me and not want to follow me anymore. But still, like, I've always kept like the same amount of followers. But again, like, I'm not a professional and I'm not original webtoonist. I'm just a canvas artist. So of course I just post whenever I want to. I mean, of course I don't post like once a year. Like, that's too broad, but like,
oh.
that's not good. But yeah, but like at least like once a month, you know, it just really depends. But like everyone seems to continue to keep following me. So I just yeah, I don't really have a deadline, which I guess is nice because I have deadlines with other things like work and school, you know, and so there's just so many things I need to keep track of. And honestly, like right now, art is just something that I love to do. And that's really what matters, not about the deadline.
Yeah. As long as you do what you love, you don't have to work any single day of your life. Well,
at least for now.
Well, as for me, actually, I have been working on Ensmile, my webtoon, for 2020 with my wife, and we stopped it for 2 months actually, so I could buffer more episodes and do more detailed artwork. So, because I did want to evolve more characters into the scenes and create some fighting scenes and some 3D backgrounds, because 3D backgrounds do take me much time to prepare, because I use Blender and Maya sometimes to create those backgrounds. So while we are having those 2 months of our comic, I started talking with my wife, and why didn't we post anything on Webtoon? We should post anything on Webtoon. People are waiting for us. People are going to be asking about when you're going to do this. Well, she just said we are doing great job. So let us complete what we are doing. We don't have to stress ourselves. Just let us focus on the projects we are working on. So I do agree with what Nina just said, and so you don't have to stress yourself about working about deadlines or Webtoon, as long as you are doing a great job. So do focus on doing a great job. Well, our audience, feel free to post your questions, send us your questions from YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, so we can answer them. Today, talk about challenges of Webtoon's creators. Well, let's head to the next question. You ladies just mentioned layouts. Layouts is a major thing. Is layouts important to your work?
Yes. Frustratingly so. Frustratingly so. Gosh damn it. So when I first started publishing on Webtoons, I received some very bad advice from some veteran creators who said, "Oh yeah, even though it's like Tapas and Webtoons have evolved for a vertical format, it's totally okay to post pages in traditional format on Webtoons." And I believed them. And for a long time, I was posting on Webtoons with the traditional page form, the traditional. There you go, traditional page format,
comic page form.
Exactly. Until I realized that doesn't really work on Webtoon. And so I had to I spent like almost an entire month like cutting, copy, pasting all the old panels to work into a vertical format. And after a while, I started working on the pages directly in the
Yeah,
vertical format.
yeah.
However,
I suppose you
I
were very so angry while you were doing and cropping, cutting the page.
exactly. But now I have had to redo that in the opposite direction because I have just like literally this week I finished crowdfunding campaign to print the first season of the comic. So I very recently finished the first season and I did a crowdfunding campaign to fund the printing of the comic. And so from
Congratulations.
thank you. And so
Mhm.
from the vertical format I have had to and I'm still working on it. Reformat
But
everything to
transforming them back into comic format, I think it's far more easier than transferring
no, it's
the
actually much easier the other way around. Because if you
easier the
have
other way around.
exactly, so from traditional to vertical. Because from traditional to vertical, you just have to the select the panels.
Panels.
Exactly, thank you, and put them one under the other, and the amount of space you put between panels is
Mhm.
what dictates the pacing. While from vertical to traditional is a lot harder because
Mhm.
when you are working on a traditional format comic, that you have to keep in mind the size of the panels and try and fill the page as much as possible. You can't have the same kind of blank spaces between panels as you can in webtoons. And
Mhm.
so that way you would have to redo parts of the panels, make some panels smaller, make some bigger to try and fit the traditional sized page as much as possible. And sometimes it doesn't really work because of the size and proportions of some of the panels, and it's really difficult. And
Mm.
it is hellish, but it is getting done.
What about you, Talia?
So my comics were all basically regular comic format, and it's been going on for years, so I didn't want to like turn into webtoon vertical format, and so I recently just like deleted my comic and posted it again and like put it in the vertical format. It just took a lot of days and a lot of time, but
Mhm.
it's finally done. But yeah, I agree. Like with pacing and the spaces between the panels are really important. I realize like when I look at other webtoon artists and webtoon stories or comics on there, like that the spacing between panels is really important, especially when there's like a surprise factor or something like that. So I think definitely layout is important, especially on webtoons, especially when you're trying to read on the phone and not just on in a book or a comic book.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's definitely important.
Yeah, actually, and I do want to prove another thing that moving and drawing, if you are a comic artist, actually, if you are someone who is used to get comics published, please do draw your comic book on traditional comic book format before you try and post it on Webtoon on the past, because it's going to make your job far more.
Definitely. You froze.
Traditional format. Panel.
Everything okay there, buddy?
You're kind of freezing up a bit.
Andrew? Oh
Oh, he gone.
no! It's up to us now. Okay, now we can talk about whatever we want. So,
Oh,
oranges, right? What a great. Oh, hello.
Yeah, welcome back. Sorry.
technical difficulties.
Yeah. So, you just talked about layouts and stuff about layouts and how do you write. So, How do you start writing an episode? After that, you move this writing into layouts, like you're translating your writings. Do you write every little detail inside this panel, or you just move around with ideas, make some topics, and make every little detail in the layouts?
If you give me half a second, I'll grab one of my storyboards sketchbooks so I can show you.
Feel free. Feel free.
Okay, so I have a small little notebook in which I write plot ideas that are useful, that can be useful for the story at some point. Then I take some of these ideas and I place them in the story. So like think how, in which part of the story to put them and how to make the scene happen. After that, I write for each chapter, I work on a script. And there is no wrong or right way to write a script if you are writing it for yourself. So like if you are writing a comic book script for another artist, you have to do it in a very specific way in which you specify the amount of panels, the sizing of the panels, exactly what kind of background there is, what characters there are, what they're saying, the point of view, the expressions,
the daylight
how
or
much,
night.
Exactly. You have to describe everything in so much detail. But if you are writing it for yourself, then you can just do the bare minimum as long as you know how to interpret and better understand what is written.
Amazing.
So the way that I write it is very minimalistic, like just getting my thoughts down because I'm the only one who has to interpret it. After that, I work on the storyboards or thumbnails, depending on however you rather call them. And so I do the thumbnails, like very minimalistic. So there's like very small bits of background visible, and the characters have no detail whatsoever. So this is just for me to better understand the characters, their expressions, the point of view, and everything. And then I move to my computer and I do it in further detail and I work on it until the finished product.
You scan this layout into your computers and start adjusting it, or you
No. I start from zero because these sketches are just to help me later. So just ideas on how to do the panels later. And bless you. And if I were to scan these and work on top of these in my computer, I would limit myself a lot. Because, like, for example, maybe I draw a full-bodied figure in the storyboards, and then I look at the storyboarded page, and I think, this scene would be better if this were bigger, this were smaller, or if it were seen from above or from below. And so maybe I just write notes next to it. Let's see if I can get a small example somewhere here. Like, so here, for example, I drew 3 characters on a couch and I put a red arrow to signify that I would have to move them further in this direction. And a lot of little modifications like that are more like notes. And then I work on the finished product from a blank canvas, following these only as guidelines.
That's cool, actually. What about you, Talya?
So of course, like my stories, like is a true story, so I have to do it upon memory. A lot of it I have written down, like a journal or whatever. So, but yeah, I sometimes try to like on paper. I put the panels and I put arrows, like this needs to be a little bit farther away from the other panel, or this one can be a little bit closer, this one can be smaller, this one can be bigger. So I just kind of practice with like where it needs to be. It just really depends on like what part of the story it's at, but really I just try to experiment before, like where it's all going to be. Yeah, it's just Yeah, I don't have like a huge way of doing it. Again, not a professional, kind of starting out. I just kind of like look at other people's stories and see what works. And so everything it changes and I'm learning over time. So obviously it gets better. Yeah.
Well, this is amazing, actually. I do like the way you both were thinking. You're making everything easy on yourselves. You are not going stressing yourselves with the process of writing and transforming your writings into layouts and illustrations. It makes you able to breathe freely and think freely about evolving and making a better story, making a better comic than, no, I should have strict script, I should have stay strict to what I just wrote. No, this is not the right way that I have wrote. I should redo this. Always remember going to draw it. So you don't have to stress yourself about every single step about making your project. You're not going to make your project, you're not going to achieve your dreams or your goals if you just care about every little single step in your way. So,
Right.
And caring about the details that much will definitely make you burn out much faster. Because the more you focus on details, the less you're moving on
exactly.
and moving forward.
This is answer what you said about don't start with a big project. I
Exactly.
did like this. Though every creator and artist have something that shaped his or her writings, story, or art style. So, what influences have shaped your art style story? I think I know the answer already.
Are you familiar with the anime Daily Life with Monster Girls?
No,
It is a Monster Girl themed harem anime in which the women have no personalities and are objectified and sexualized. And I hate that, but I love the characters so much. They're so colorful and they're so pretty. And I've watched it God knows how many times, and I hate the writing, but they're so cute. So definitely, Monster Girl content like Daily Life with Monster Girls when it comes to the creation of the characters, but when it comes to writing the writing style and the kind of tropes and plot points that I try to use when I can, definitely I try to use as much as I can from good quality traditional shoujo.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if you're familiar with Hana Yoridango or Boys Over Flowers. So
Yes,
the manga is super old. It's from the early 1990s, and they've had a million different adaptations. They've had an anime, they've had like two Japanese TV series, a Japanese live action movie, a Taiwanese version, a Korean version, a Chinese version. And I have seen every single adaptation so much, and I love that so much, and I love the story so much. Okay, sorry, I'm nerding out a bit, but but when
part
it
of the
comes,
process.
yeah, when it comes to writing and choosing the right plot points, I try to remember how certain like plot twists and plot points and tropes in those series, anime, and manga made me feel. And I try to translate them in a way that would work for my own comic. So
That's great.
trying to, I know it is super difficult because I'm more of an artist than a writer, but I try to make those feelings real for my own readers as well.
That's great. I was afraid actually you might say Twilight.
Oh no,
Yeah,
Twilight!
Me
The
too.
story was written so badly. Like it gave me butterflies, but only when I was a teenager. I rewatched it with my little brother a couple of years ago because it was on Netflix. I was like, hey, little brother, look, there's Netflix. Let's watch it together. And it was not as good as I remembered. So
Yeah, same. Same.
What about you, Talia?
So for example, Kimi ni Todoke is my number one favorite shoujo anime, and like other animes like it, it's not just a romance. She's basically like she's very nobody really likes to hang out with her. Like she's just like weird looking, and like she looks like a horror film person, even though she's a really nice person. So like basically like she's being bullied or she's trying to make new friends that like actually care about her. So there's kind of like these emotional components to the story that like make me like relate, because I remember being a kid and being bullied and like I want to make friends and like, you know, so I just think about like the emotional part of the stories that just make me like happy or sad, and I just want other people to relate and like feel those feelings. Same, like I used to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender growing up. I don't know if you saw that. And there's always like there's Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, so or Legend of Korra. Like it's not like of course like the action.
Those shows are
Yeah,
everyone's
favorite. Yeah, of course. So like the action scenes are amazing, but like they try to put like some like emotional like trauma, you know, or something like a really emotional like in Korra there's a lot of politics that kind of you know make people like think, you know, and so like I like to put that part in my story, like make people think, make people relate, and like feel their emotions is really what my goal is when making comics.
That's so right. That's so right. That's so right to be thinking about how to you can relate, how to can you make any readers love any characters or hate any characters. But I do love the ways that some writers do and some comic artists creators do. They make single characters. You hate that single character for a couple of episodes, for maybe a single issue or two issues of the comic. After that, you reveal some little secret in the background about this character. So you start asking yourself, why I'm hating this character? Actually, he's fighting his or her way through this path, what's happening, differences, the conflicts. After that, you find yourself you are in love with that character. I do love the twists the creators do to the characters along the way you're working on your episodes. So
Well, I feel that so deeply. I have this one character whom I hate so much. I hate her so much. I just want to. So, like, I initially in my story, I was supposed to kill her off because I hated her so much. But my readers loved her. I even got fan art of her, and I'm like, no, why? Why do we like this character? Why? And so in the end, I had to not kill her off because they liked her so much. And when I mentioned that I wanted to kill her off, people were like, oh, no, not her. And so I get that.
you remind me of a character I did for Ensmile. Actually, he's dead now. My friends, readers, actually, always comes to me whining every day. Why did you kill this character? We loved him. We loved him. You should bring him back. No, he's not dead. You should bring him back from the dead. This is not the way that some writers think. I think actually life happens. Sometimes people die. Sometimes people change. So this is what happens with stories. There is no. I don't believe the kind of Superman that is able to fight his way through everything and come back with glory and hands in his waist and the cape is flying. I don't believe in this things that happens actually. Things happen, life happens to every single live being on this universe. So the next one is actually this is a tricky one. How do you build your own imagination? Well, webtoon creators and artists in different variant kinds of fields about art and writing always find themselves not being able to create stories or create characters for their limited imagination about the characters and how they are going to create a universe, maybe for superheroes, maybe, or a thriller universe. They kind of like, I can't think straight. I can't bring my ideas to writing or to the art. So how can a writer, a creator, an artist build his own imagination?
Well, unless you're some kind of like writing genius like Neil Gaiman or whatever, ideas don't just pop like this. Ideas, it's like, uh, it's not just something that you're like, ah, yes, please give me idea, and idea just comes. Ideas, imagination, characters, plot points are fruit of brainstorming, daydreaming, consuming other content, and
Reading.
conversations. Yes. So normally when I am having some sort of writer's block and I don't know how to continue a story, I try to consume material of a similar genre. So see plot points which could be used similarly in my own story, or see if maybe there are any kind of concept that gives me some kind of idea. For example, a few years ago, I was watching some Korean drama about Son Wukong and other kind of and other characters from the Journey to the West book, and some side character gave me the idea for a 10-page comic about a little girl going through the woods and meeting different characters. So like sometimes ideas come from places you might not expect. But so far, the most useful source of ideas, so for plot points, characters, stories, and world building, has been brainstorming and conversations with friends. Because when you are trying to think of how to develop a plot point, you can sit on a chair or lay down in your bed and stare at the ceiling for hours and hours and hours trying to think of different scenarios. But when you do so, you and your mind are stuck in a box. While if you are talking about it with friends or even strangers sometimes, but with friends it's better because you can trust them, then you are talking with people who don't have the same point of view as you and can see both the story, the plot, and the characters from a more external point of view and give you opinions and ideas that you might not think of.
Yeah.
So definitely brainstorming, consuming material, but most of all, talking with friends.
Talking with friends. Do you read books?
Yes, though not as much as I would like to. I read a lot of manga, a lot of webtoons. And in the past few months, I've started reading a lot more classic literature. So Agatha Christie, Jane Eyre,
Those are some rich elements you are talking.
Yes, mainly because the classics, even if the stories aren't something that might interest me personally all that much, there is a reason they became as successful as they are. And so I read them to try to understand why and what elements work, what elements work for them, which elements might work for me, recognize what elements work for them but might not work for my own comic, and see. So it's a bit of like taking little ideas here and there from as many sources as you can.
Do you think that TV shows does block your way of imagination? The video, the movies, sometimes, yeah, feel free to talk.
I think it depends on how you watch and why you watch. Because like if you watch just because you want to relax, so you've had a long day, and so you turn on Netflix, you watch, I don't know, rewatch How I Met Your Mother for the 10th time just to relax, then you're not going to get any new ideas.
Yeah.
But if you are watching something completely new and you are keeping your antennae out for interesting elements that you think could work for your own story, then that could be helpful.
That's so cool, actually. Well, before we head to the same question with Talya, please, our audience, feel free to send us your questions and post them in the comment section, the description box, or on YouTube or on Twitch or Facebook. Feel free to talk about your ideas, your thoughts, how we're going to build. Maybe create your own Twilight, create your own Justice League, create your own Batman. So feel free to send us your thoughts and post them in the comment section of all those three platforms. So how do you build your imagination, Tali?
Well, just especially I like watching anime or regular TV or stories. As a storyteller in some way, I have different stories just popping up sometimes. And then I'll think about like what ifs, like what if I could go back in time, if this happened, if that happened, this happened. Like it just kind of goes in different ways. But like, of course, watching like different kinds of TV or comedy even like gets ideas coming up, or so of course sometimes I do want to do like more comedy and like, but of course like all my stories about something that that readers would relate to, like what it would be like working in the food industry, for example. I think about doing something like that, so it's like, oh god, I know what that's like to like be treated like a waitress or something like that, or I just like to do like kind of like realistic things, whether it's funny or not, So I don't know. Just for me, I just feel like constantly like different like stories kind of like pop up.
Do you like reading manga or watching the adaptation of it? Which is
Both.
better for you?
Both. I mean, like manga helps me more with like what it would look like panel wise, and but anime definitely like brings out the emotion and also gives me like the drive to like
Sometimes
draw.
the anime ruins the manga.
Yeah, sometimes it does, depending. But yeah, usually sometimes they can't do everything that the manga does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did remember this happened with the Gantz manga.
Oh,
The Gantz manga
Which
actually, the Gantz.
Gantz, I remember.
Yeah.
Mm.
Gantz was actually amazing with emotions, with everything, with how the artist creating every single character and her emotion through the chapters. Still, I'm not going to talk about the end because I hate the end actually. Every manga fan doesn't agree with this end, but. What happened actually with every characters, the evolve of every characters actually was so amazing. Like what happens to every single one in life, going from zero to hero or going from hero to zero. This didn't happen with the anime of Guns. Actually, it ruined every single piece of scenery, every epic one in the manga. So this is why I did ask you this question.
I feel you there. When it comes to Gantz in particular, one of the, at least the way that I saw it, because I read the manga a few years ago, but I actually watched the anime many years before. Like the biggest difference that made me most uncomfortable was that in the manga, like there's a lot of nudity and a lot of violence, and in the manga, it felt more natural as like part of the storytelling. Like, yeah, it's mature, but that's how the story is. While in the anime, the way it was portrayed, and also probably because of the quality of the animation, felt like it was a hentai, and that made me kind of uncomfortable. So I was like,
I know what you're saying. Yeah. So we're nearly the end of our show, so we'd like to hear some advice from you to our audience and to your fans. So you, Nina, first.
Well, aside from the advice that I already shared earlier, that I'll briefly repeat for anyone who might be joining later. If you're a new creator, don't start with a big project. set realistic goals, and don't work with a super tight schedule. If you burn out, you can take a small break, but don't stop being productive, work on other projects, and get back to your own main project as early as you can. But also, guys, if you create, don't do it for the numbers. If you do it for the numbers, it will show in the quality of your work and the quality of your writing and your art. And people are not going to like that. If you do it for the numbers, you're also going to burn out much easier. And so you're going to have to find a different source for your motivation, which is different for every artist. For some artists who are super lucky to have already big numbers, it's the followers themselves.
Mhm.
But if you're a rookie creator who doesn't have those numbers yet, you got to find your motivation elsewhere, which
Mhm.
can be in the satisfaction of bringing an episode to completion. It can be affection you feel for the story, or affection you feel for the characters, or even a drive to show the world that you are creating to other people. You got to find your own source for motivation, and don't get hung up on the numbers. But also, don't underestimate the importance of marketing. Market everywhere. Market on Discord, market on Facebook, so market on Twitter, market on Reddit, market on TikTok, market on Instagram. Market and advertise in as many places as you can, as much as you can. Otherwise, you are not going to grow.
Yeah,
There are
this is what I
literally,
was going to ask you both about how to grow on Webtoons. So I'm glad you just said what you're saying to help you grow, because Webtoons is not going to give you stairs to success and help. Welcome to our Webtoons. Welcome. You're going to have thousands, millions of fans or subscribers. Welcome on board. This is not going to happen.
no. If you want to get
Right.
there, you need good quality. You need to know how to work on Webtoons. So, like, for example, if you're going to start publishing, start with minimum 3 episodes, and then start publishing if you can regularly. So once a week, if you're new, might be too much. So even if it's just once every 2 weeks, that is a-okay. And advertise. If you want big numbers right away, do BL. People on Webtoons love BL. If you have a pretty looking icon with a little BL tag on the icon, people are going to gobble that up.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but not to say that you're going to grow if you do BL, but it is going to be a little bit easier.
Mhm.
I kind of don't agree with this, but let's hear what Talya says.
So marketing or um are
Let's
we
start with
talking
advice first.
advice? Okay. I was like, oh, what are we talking about? Okay. So advice, of course, practice always makes perfect, I think, as long as you practice. And then a thing that we were talking about last night, Andrew, was just like, don't worry about what people think, especially the negative comments. Because like there's always, even if you're like the most famous person, there are going to be people who don't like you. Like, so many people love Twilight, but there's so many people that don't. And it's like, okay, well, think about the people that actually do like it. You know, there's like there are always going to be bad comments, but also like you kind of need the criticism so you can get better. I think that's part of being a designer, an artist, whatever. You
Oh,
need
yeah.
to, yeah, definitely. Like you need like the criticism. Like you don't want people being like, you, well, it sucks, because that's not going to help. It's like, why do you not like it? So tell me why you don't like it, what I could change, what I could do better, you know? So like, you know, like just keep trying. Everyone's different. We don't all do the same art styles. Also, like a lot of people tell me this, and I should follow this, is that like, if you enjoy it, keep doing it. It's not always about the readers. Sometimes you have to do it for yourself. So like, you know, like that's the biggest advice I could tell you. I'm still learning about this. I'm still learning to like be kinder to myself, and just know that of course I've gotten better than I used to, and that's what's important. And then also to keep practicing, even if you do have artist block, because I find that really helps, because you're gonna get it no matter what if you're an artist, I feel like. So like keep going. Try different art softwares. There's so many that I still haven't even tried to use. Like I like the one that I use, but I need to try and learn more, and I'm on the process of doing that. Looking at tutorials is really important. There's just so many things you can look at to like better yourself. You're always growing no matter what. Even if you're famous, you're getting better and better, and you're growing. That's all that matters, is that you enjoy it.
That's so cool, actually. Yeah. Many thanks for this advice. So, what's your thought about growing on Webtoons?
Sorry?
This question is for Talya. What you just answered. How to grow on Webtoons? Marketing. Nina just said marketing on social media, because you're not going to be noticed on Webtoons even for 100 years. So.
Right. Social media is really important, because that's what everyone's doing right now. So like Instagram, I'm constantly posting. Every time I post a chapter, I post like my best picture of it, and then I put tags of comics and what people would look like, comics, webtoons, whatever, and a lot of people would find it. You could also go on Facebook and start a group, and then make all of your friends like join the group or join your page, and then they send it to other people, and that also helps. Also, sometimes I post like videos of my comics on TikTok. A lot of people like art stuff on TikTok. There's been times where I do like a speed drawing on TikTok with like a video in the background, and people seem to love that. There's a huge artist community on TikTok, and that's a huge thing right now, TikTok. So yeah, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. There's probably other things, Reddit. Just keep posting and tagging. And you'll be like, that's what usually works for me, and I do have quite a few followers.
Well, that's actually cool. So. Many thanks, ladies, for this interview. Actually, I enjoyed every moment of the questions, of the answers, what you just said, the advice you gave, your journey to making your own webtoons and achieving your dreams, achieving your goals. So, I do thank you for this interview. So many thanks to you, Nina. Many thanks to you, Talya.
Thanks for having me.
The honor is all mine.
I'm glad to have met you guys.
So
it's been a good experience.
So did you read my Ensmile webtoon?
Did you give me the name?
Ensmile webtoon. I'm going to send you the link after.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to read both of yours as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. So many thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching our show. Please feel free to stay tuned for the next week episode about Webtoon creators, as we are going to be talking with Webtoon creators for a couple of interviews for the coming season. So feel free to send me your questions if you got any questions about Webtoon in English or in Arabic too if you want. لو كنتوا حابين تسألوا أسئلة عن الويبتون فابعتوها لي على الخاص عشان خاطر نقدر نجاوبها. Many thanks again, guys, for watching, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.